Okay, so we are going to begin. So today I've decided to bring some questions on ecology. I think a good number of us have covered ecology in our schools. So I expect a very enthusiastic participation in today's session, since we are going to cover a topic that is familiar to most of us. So feel free to discuss, to say what you feel should be said, so that we can have a very engaging discussion. So here is the question we are going to look at. Some of you probably have seen this question before, and others are probably seeing it for the first time. But this is a very common question. It's taken from a very common source. So I hope we can be able to learn from it. So the graph shows the changes in the standing crop biomass of producers, primary consumers, and certain environmental variables in a lake during the course of 1 year. So we are expected to study the curves and answer the questions that are attached. Okay? So please, those who are just joining us, I'm requesting you to mute your mics so that we can have a good discussion. So here is our graph, and I want us to describe the changes in the environmental variables throughout the year. Then 2, describe the changes in crop biomass of consumers and producers. So I think we need to address ourselves to A, Roman 1, the changes in environmental variables throughout the year. So how would we go about such a question? Any willing participants? Gerald, do you want to tell us something? Okay, I can see Zama. Zama, please tell us.
Thank you, sir. I think we have two environmental variables here. I think it is light and temperature. So we are required to describe the changes and then their trends.
Okay. So Zama tells us there are two environmental variables, light and temperature. Do you have any other submissions other than what Zama has told us? Please, you put up your hand, then you are picked. Are those the only environmental variables? Okay, so I can see some people have unmuted, probably they want to contribute. Byron Kids, you're getting feedback. I'm going to take away the ability to unmute because I see people abusing it. And Ivan and Byron, please stop playing your videos. You are disrupting the lesson. So I think let me just take away some of these security features so that we can have sanity. Okay, I think now we can have some sanity. So how do we go about describing these environmental variables? Members, I hope you realize that this is a discussion. I don't want to just give you answers because it will not be helpful. I want us to challenge ourselves to think. Yes, Hope. Thank you. Where is Hope? Let me, yes, you can unmute and talk.
Okay, teacher, you asked this as the first question of describing the changes in the environmental variables. So, like I said, the environmental variables are light and temperature. So for me, I'd say for light, from January to I think mid-March, yeah, the light gradually. Then from mid-March to around July, it also increases. Yes, it also increases gradually. Then from July to December, it's decreasing gradually. That's for light. Then for temperature, from January to July, it's increasing gradually. Then from July to December, it's decreasing gradually. Yes, I think that's what I have.
Okay, thank you, Hope. Do you have any other contributions? Any other contributions? If you want, okay, we have Ryan. You can unmute.
Okay, like the environmental variable here, describe light. You can see that there is gradual quantity of light from January to June, and then this light attains its maximum in July, and finally decreases gradually from July to December. And it's the same case with temperature also increasing. This time may be from January to June, attains maximum in July, and then decreases gradually to December. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being brave. So when we look at these two variables, like you have rightly identified light and temperature as the environmental variables, we notice that from January to about July, we see there is a gradual increase in that temperature, and we notice that between July and August the temperature remains almost constant. You notice that. And then from August to December the temperatures decrease also gradually. Now there is something that both of you have left out, okay? The July-August we see the temperature peaking around that time, okay? Said last time that when we have a peak is where we have a rise followed by a decrease, okay? So we can talk about the peak. So the peak is probably mid-July, mid-August. Then for light, between January and February, the light intensity is almost constant. Okay, actually, is it almost constant? Okay, there's a slight increase, which is, we can say, gradual increase. Then from February to probably end of July, or actually July, we see that the light intensity increases rapidly, and then so it peaks at around July, and then from July to December we see that there is a gradual decrease. Okay, so you look at the highlights. Of course, right now we are looking at it on the screen. We don't have our pencils, but if we had our pencils it would be easier for us to see the rapid increase and the gradual increase, and then it would be very easy for us to clarify on what sort of change it is. But I'd like to thank the last two participants for their contributions. Ryan is asking, is attaining a maximum the same as attaining the peak? Not really. Okay, not really. A peak is where you see an increase followed by a decrease. A maximum is the highest point on a graph. Okay, it's the highest point. It may be followed by a decrease, or it may even remain flat. So a maximum can remain flat without going down, but a peak must come down. We must have a rise and a fall afterwards. So that's how you can distinguish when to say maximum and when to say the peak. I hope that helps. If you have other questions, you can put them in the chat. I'll be visiting the chat a lot so that we can be able to move together, since people are abusing the mics. Okay. And then standing crop biomass of the consumers and the producers. How do we describe the changes? How do we describe the changes in the standing crop biomass of the consumers and the producers? Again, I would want to invite people to contribute to this. If you want to say something, you put up your hand. I hope we all know how to do that on this Zoom. Okay. Well, I think a peak is acceptable. If you don't put it, then you lose marks. How would you describe it except calling it a peak? Dennis is saying that they were questioned about using the peak. But if you don't put the peak, then you're going to deny yourself some marks. Okay. Since people are too quiet this afternoon, maybe I can allow you to unmute. Maybe now this time you are able to be more disciplined. So the question still stands. How would we describe the changes in the standing crop biomass of consumers and the producers? I'm going to start choosing people randomly. Alupo, Marion, can you give us your thoughts? Seems Alupo is not in the class. Baka. Okay, Hope. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. So the standing crop biomass of consumers is what I'm going to start from. So from January to May, I think from January to May, the crop biomass of primary consumers increases rapidly. Then from May to August, the standing crop biomass of primary consumers decreases rapidly. Then from August to September, the standing biomass of consumers is almost constant. Then from September to December, the standing crop biomass of consumers decreases gradually. Then for the producers. From January to March, standing crop biomass of produce March to May, the standing
Please, just a moment, Hope. The last one I didn't hear is what you are saying about producers from January to March.
Oh, from January to March, it increases very rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
Then from March to May, it decreases also very rapidly. Then from March to August, it remains, no, okay, from March to around July, it's almost constant. Then from July to August, it increases gradually. Then from August to December, we see it decreasing gradually. Yes.
Thank you, Hope. That was a good contribution. I can see some other people have raised their hands. Perpetua, please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, teacher. Beginning with the producers, from January to almost mid of January, the standing crop biomass of producers increases gradually. Then from the mid of January to the mid of March, the standing crop biomass of producers increases rapidly to a peak. Then from the mid of March to May, the standing crop biomass of producers decreases rapidly. Then from May to actually, teacher, the months are not calculated very well, but if we can see, okay, from May.
Please go on. Please go on.
Yes. From May to June. From May to mid of June. From May to June, the standing crop biomass decreases gradually. Then from June to from May to June, rather from June to July. Is it July? From the mid of June to August, the standing crop biomass of producers increases gradually to obtain a lower peak. Then from August to December, the standing crop biomass of producers decreases gradually. Then when I go to primary consumers, from January to May, to the mid of May, the standing crop biomass of consumers increases gradually, peak. Then from the mid of May to the mid of July, the standing crop biomass of consumers decreases rapidly. Then from the mid of July to August, the standing crop biomass of consumers decreases slightly. Then from August to the mid of August, from August to the mid of August, there is a slight increase in the standing crop biomass of consumers. Then from the mid of August to December, there is a gradual decrease in the standing crop biomass of consumers. That's all what I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You can see you have taken your time to look at the different aspects of the graph, and to a large extent I can agree with you. Of course, we are limited by the fact that we are looking at it on the screen, but if it was on paper, I would advise you get a pen, a pencil and a ruler, and then you trace the lines and see where the gradient changes. That's where you start from, where you can say, for instance, if you look at our graph here, if you were to trace a line like this, you see that from around here, somewhere around Feb, then this starts going up. So that means you're going to say gradual increase, probably it's going to stop somewhere in Feb. Then from there you see that the gradient now takes another tangent, and therefore now we start talking about a rapid increase. Yeah, but basically when you're describing graphs like the last three people have described, you go step by step until you reach the very end. So that was wonderful from all the people who have made contributions. Okay, so I think we can address ourselves to, can just first look at what I had here, then we can go to the part B of the question. So this is what I had. So we see a temperature increase gradually between January and July, and then reaches a peak. Then between July and August, okay, that is where the peak was. Thereafter it decreases slowly or gradually up to December. So all of us, most of the people got it right. The light increase gradually from January to June, then reaches a peak between July and August. This means that this is when the time it is brightest, okay, and then it decreases slowly or gradually up to December. Then for the standing crop biomass from January to February, the standing crop biomass, okay, for the consumers, because I know about consumers, increased gradually, then increased rapidly between March and May, reaching a peak. Okay, then from June to July, the standing crop biomass for the consumers decreased rapidly, then it remained constant from June to mid-September. Then from mid-September to mid-December, it decreased gradually, then began to rise slowly. Okay, why do I say began to rise slowly? Because that from December we come back to January where we see that there's an increase. So the increase begins in mid-December and starts rising all through January, although slowly. So again, I would like to thank you. So what explanations can we give for the observed changes in the physical factors in the river? So the physical factors we have said, these are the what? The light, intensity, and the temperature. Okay, so why are they changing the way we are observing them? Why does light change the way we have mentioned? And why does the temperature equally change the way we have mentioned? Any ideas? If you have any ideas, you can put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and share them with the rest of the group. Just ask yourself, is there a relationship between light and temperature throughout the year? Yes, Mary Imi, please unmute.
So I'm going to try.
Yeah, that's okay.
So you want, excuse me. The question is like, what explanation can you give for the observed changes? So I think for the light, you're seeing that it increases gradually from January to April. Yeah. So I think that what causes this light to increase gradually is that the river contains nutrients, and those nutrients are okay. Those nutrients are food. Can I say food to the producers, and that the producers increase in number, and therefore producers such as, if I may give an example, the algae, that it increases in number and then it blocks the light that penetrates through the river, something like that. And then from April to July, the light intensity, light quantity in the river increases to a peak. So as you are seeing from the graph that the nutrients go on decreasing, also the producers decrease. I give an example of the algae that feeds on the nutrients, whatever that's in the river. But as it decreases, the light penetration also in the river increases, therefore increasing the light to a maximum. And it's the same thing as the year goes to an end. That the light decreases from July to December, it decreases. It decreases it decreases gradually because the nutrients are also increasing. And I think also the producers will be increasing, blocking the light again. That's what I think.
Okay, thank you for your contribution. Okay, if anyone has anything contrary, they can still share with us. Bill Gracious. Joyce. Please, you should only unmute when you want to contribute rather than giving us background noise. So I usually call your names because I see you have unmuted, meaning that you probably want to tell us something. Okay, any other contributions? Yes, Hope, you want to come back?
Yes, teacher. I think just to add on what the previous person has said, I'm also thinking in January we see that the light is okay. Me, I'm seeing almost constant because we also see that the producers from in that January, the producers are also increasing very gradually. That means producers are usually the plants, so they are not so much blocking the light penetration into the lake. So that's why the light penetration or the light is almost constant. But from like February to I think July, it's increasing gradually because whereas the producers have increased also very rapidly, the primary consumers are also increasing. So they are feeding on the producers. So they are kind of blocking the light penetration, though not so much because the primary consumers are feeding on some of the producers, so creating some more space for the light penetration. Then we see that from around July to August, the light is almost also constant because the producers have reduced in the lake, but the primary consumers, yeah, I'm seeing they're also low. So like there is space for the light penetration. Okay, something like that. I'm also not sure, just adding on.
Okay, thank you all for your contributions. Perpetua, you want to come back? Let's have Perpetua before I can weigh in.
Yes, teacher. I also adding on what my fellows have stated out. When we look at our graph, we can see that between January and March, the lighting test is light, yes, is lower compared to the months of April and then up to December. I think this could be the reason. This could be because when you look at January and then to March, we see that there is a lot of nutrients in the lake, and so we shall expect a rapid growth of algae. And then if we see rapid growth of algae in the lake, this will block the light penetration into the river. So we shall see light in January being low compared to the months of March to December. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Well, I would like to thank you for trying to relate the physical factors to producers, but you have to be extremely careful as you do that because you need to ask yourself what physical factor do these producers need? Okay, so we see that the physical factor the producers need is both light and temperature. Okay, but of course temperature within certain limits. Okay, so at some point we see the light increasing, but then when the light is greatest, we see that our producers are not really at their highest. So that should put a question mark on your mind, okay? Because they need light to make food. When the temperature is highest, we also don't see the producers at their highest. So it seems like there's a slightly inverse relationship at some point, whereby when the temperatures are high, the producers are are less. At some point we see the temperatures are going low, the producers continue going low. So you need to ask yourself what relationship is there. But let's concern ourselves with basically the light and the temperature. We notice that they're all varying at the same in the same way. When the light intensity rises, we see the temperature also rising. When the light intensity peaks, the temperature also peaks. When the light intensity decreases, even the temperature is decreasing. And where is this light coming from? Of course, it's the effect of the sun. So that is part of what you need to bear in mind. But remember, this is a year. In a year, we have seasons. So we have seasons when we have a high amount of rather high light intensity, and there are seasons when the light intensity is less. So usually the light intensity is less in rainy seasons, because by then there's a lot of cloud cover, and then the light intensity is a lot in the dry spells or the dry seasons when there is less cloud cover. Of course, when the sun there's less cloud cover, it means that temperatures also will rise. Okay, and when the temperatures rise, of course, now we see how this temperature and the light will affect our producers. I hope we are getting somewhere. I'm just giving you a hint on what should guide your thinking or your thought process. So here we see that light energy from the sun is absorbed by water, okay, and the temperature of the water body increases. Okay, whenever the sun shines on a water body, then that water body absorbs the light, then it could result into an increase in the temperature of the water body. So you see, as the lighter intensity is increasing, then the temperature is also rising. Okay, so that means that at that time maybe the cloud cover is less. Okay, so that's why the temperature is the light intensity is what is rising. So at the time when the light intensity is greater, that means there's no cloud cover, if you may put it that way, or it's extremely little, and so it heats up the water body and the temperature rises. Okay, so the temperature remains constant when there is a balance between heat lost from evaporation and heat gained from the sun rays. Okay, so the sun striking from the sun rays striking the water body. Now during the rainy season, cold rain water will mix with the river water, causing it to cool down. Okay, so the times where we see that temperature is coming down, it means that there is a rainy season and the temperature of the water body is being cooled by the rainwater. But besides that, we know that in the rain season we have what we call cloud cover. Okay, and that is from September to December. See, from September to December we are seeing the light intensity and the temperature are coming down for the water body. So the quantity of light decreases due to cloud cover during the rainy season. I have mentioned that. And during the rainy season, the sky is the sunny season, the sky is clear, so the amount of light or the light intensity is high, rapidly warming up the water. And this is what probably is happening during July to August, when we see the peak of the light and the temperature. I hope I'm loud and clear. So the quantity of light increases from January to June as the skies clear. Water also progressively warms up And the light penetration in the water body is also affected by organisms, as one of you talked about, at the water surface. So if we have algae growing on the water surface, that means to some extent they are affecting the penetration of light into the rest of the water body. Okay, so that's why the light intensity isn't as its highest. And you notice during that time we see a rise in the producers. So we are assuming that these producers are the algae. So remember, algae growth is favored by an increase in light intensity and optimum temperature. So you see that temperatures are not extremely high, so that means the algae are able to thrive. Okay, but of course when the temperatures continue rising, then the algae population goes down. Of course, one of the reasons could be the primary consumers which are feeding on them, but also the increase in the temperature may speed up, may cause them instead to start decomposing. Okay, and so that could also cause their decrease. Okay, so we are seeing we said that the quantity of light increases from January to June as the sky clears. Okay. Water also progressively warms up, so light penetration in the water body is also affected by organisms at the water surface. So in sunny periods, there are fewer organisms at the water surface due to high water temperature, which could affect their metabolism. So this increases light penetration. So when there are few organisms, then there's more light penetration. At the start of the rain season, the water cools and the organisms at the water surface will increase, okay, causing decreased light penetration. So I hope we are getting the key points that need to be talked about in this sort of graph. So we're going to look at effect of light intensity raising the water temperature, okay, and then how does this affect the productivity of the producers. Then you talk about very high temperatures, how they affect the productivity, and how that in turn affects the penetration of light through the water body. Is that clear? So I'm going to show you the answers so that you can read through and see, because I've just been talking, so that you can see where to ask. But I'm assuming that you have been very attentive. So this one we did. So this is my answer. Feel free to take screenshots as we get along. So this graph is taken from biological science, by the way, for those who didn't know. And then there were questions that were set surrounding that graph in biological science in the topic of ecology. So these questions that we often set are taken from the textbooks that are within your reach. So I encourage you to read your textbooks, because that's where the questions are set from. So we are seeing that light from the sun is absorbed by water, and the temperature of the water body increases. When there's an increase in light, that should be light, not fight. It implies this should be light. Let me annotate it so that we can know. So this should be light, not fight. Sorry about that. So implies an increase in water temperature. So the temperature remains constant when there is a balance between heat loss by evaporation and heat gain from the sun rays striking the water body. So that's why we see the temperatures not changing. But during the rainy season, the cold water mixes with the river water, okay, cooling it. And this can be seen from about September to December. And then the quantity of light decreases due to cloud cover. You know, in this rainy season, there's a lot of nimbus clouds. And then during the sunny season, the sky is clear, so the quantity of light is high, rapidly warming up the water. So if you look at our graph, that's about June to August. Then the quantity of light increases from January to June as the sky is clear. Then water also progressively warms up due to, of course, the increase in the light intensity. Then light penetration in the water body is affected by organisms at the water surface. Here we have the phytoplankton and the algae. So in sunny periods, there are fewer organisms at the water surface due to high water temperatures, which somehow affects their metabolism. So when, of course, they decrease in quantity, then light penetration increases. When the rain season starts, the water cools and the organisms at the water surface increase, causing a decrease in light penetration. So basically, that is all we can talk about that. I'm assuming you've taken your screenshots, and so we can go to the next thing. Yes, Hope.
Teacher, basing on this question, were we exactly supposed to be knowing the time of the year when it's rainy season, when it's dry season? I don't know. Could you please elaborate?
Okay, now the thing about these graphs, you may not know for sure, but you can make a suggestion, because wherever you go, there are always going to be a rain season and a dry season. Okay, and you know that when there's a rain season, then there will be less light. Okay, there will be more cloud cover. So if the graph changed the months, the same explanation would remain for as long as where we see there is little light. Okay, this graph is not necessarily from your area where you're coming from. Okay, but at least we know that in our tropical regions we always have rain seasons and dry seasons, and when this is a dry season, there is less cloud cover. I hope I've answered you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so Joyce, you want to tell us something? I see you have unmuted. Okay, seems
nothing,
like
teacher.
okay, please don't unmute if you don't have something to say, because we end up getting background noise. We end up following your conversations around you, which may not be helpful for our discussion. All right. So let's look at another question. So they're asking us, what is the importance of increased light penetration into the water body, to the ecosystem in the river? So when we see increased penetration of light, how helpful is that to the ecosystem in the river? So Williams, I can see you've unmuted. Please share with us what you have to say.
Yes, Master. Okay. The question is saying here, what is the importance of increased life into the water body, the ecosystem in the river? As we know that the most importance of light, more so in the ecosystem. Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
Is more so is the source of energy for growing plants.
Source of energy for?
My point is, it increases the rate of photosynthesis, increasing productivity in the river.
Yeah, please talk. You are clear. Go on.
Another point is, it increases the number of producers in the river of the ecosystem, availing energy to higher trophic levels. Also, I have only three. Increased light penetration affects the seasonal rhythms, such as mating and migration of organisms.
Okay, thank you. I hope the rest of the people have heard your answers very well. Someone is telling us here, hello Anita, light helps aquatic animals to view their prey and predators. Okay, that is true. Perpetua?
Pardon. So, also,
Perpetua, your hand is up. No, let's have other people also contribute. Your contributions are taken. Let's have also other people participate.
Yes.
Okay.
Light is a source of energy for photolysis. That is breaking of water, breakdown of water during photolysis. So those aquatic plants, it provides that energy during photosynthesis for aquatic plants. Then I can also say for the aquatic plants that do flowering, light induces flowering in those aquatic plants. Then my last point would be that also light intensity induces stomata opening.
That's your last point?
Yes, sir.
I didn't hear your last point.
It induces stomata opening.
Okay, thank you. Deogracius? Deogracius? Can see you unmuted. Okay, Deogracius forgot his mic. To mute his mic. So thank you all for your contributions. So your contributions are spot on. So we see that when light penetrates the water body, of course, the aquatic organisms that are photosynthetic are able to carry out photosynthesis, like we all have had. Okay, and of course, the primary productivity increases. And of course, when the primary productivity increases, then means that it's going to support the primary consumers. So the number of primary consumers will also increase since they feed on the primary producers. Okay, and that will be good for the ecosystem. Of course, when there is little light, then there is less photosynthesis, there will be fewer producers, And when there are fewer producers, there will also be fewer consumers. Okay, so you see that importance of light. And so all your answers are okay. Okay, but also something that I have not heard is that this water, when it warms up, okay, then it allows more oxygen to be available, okay, in the water body. So more oxygen can dissolve in the water body, and of course the oxygen is going to help all the other aquatic organisms. Okay, yeah, of course that has limits. If the water body overwarms up, then less oxygen will be available. So there's a limit to the warming up. Otala, Emma, please share with us what you want to tell us. I think he also forgot to mute his mic. Okay, I don't see anything new in the chat, so we can move on. Now, explain the relationship between producers and nutrients. When we look at the graph of the producers and the nutrients, there is a relationship. So how do we explain that relationship between the producers and the nutrients? So in case you're not observing well, these are the producers. The lines are broken, but the nutrients, we have a dot in the line, so we see this. So again, you are going to take it step by step. So who wants to try? I see the same people each time, and yet we have very many people on this in this chat. I expect to have as more people participating as possible. Let me see some new people. Jazira, please share with us. Jazira. Okay, let's have someone else. Jazira is shy. Oh, Jazira, want to say something? Okay, please unmute and tell us. Jazira? Okay, someone else? Can we have someone else? Maybe I should call out some people's names. There's someone called Mystica. Oh, some people are chatting. Okay, that's fine. Let's read the chats. If someone wants to see the answers, I'll show the answers. Your point is well taken. Perpetua teacher, in this case, if we talk about the importance of water, importance of light intensity, do we bring about the negative effect of increased light intensity? Which question are you asking about? The earlier question? Because if the light intensity is so high, then probably it is going to cause a high temperature. And then you talk about the negative effects of the high temperature. Loanita says during March, both were the same. Okay, that is one observation, but then the question is, what is the relationship? Whenever we ask about a relationship, we have either a direct relationship, okay, or an inverse relationship. Okay, we talk about so if you look at this, we try to find out when one increases, does the other one also increase as well? When one decreases, does the other one also decrease as well? Or it's the other way around, when one increases, the other one decreases. Then the next thing is to ask yourself, why does the decrease of one cause an increase of the other? Or why does an increase of one cause an increase of the other? So when we look at the nutrients here and the producers, which of those relationships are we seeing? Is it an inverse relationship or a direct relationship? At least this time I expect to see people telling me the type of relationship displayed here. Okay, I think Hope has an answer. Hope, tell us, what type of relationship do we see?
This is an inverse relationship where an increase in the other leads to a decrease of the other. Are you hearing me?
Thank you. Yes. So Hope says it's an inverse relationship. Williams, is that the same answer?
As I'm saying, the relationship between the producers and the nutrients here, I see that the direct relationship.
You say it's direct?
Yeah, because the increase in the other also increases.
Actually, what we see is generally an inverse. Okay? Williams, it's an inverse because we notice that from January to about, say, March, okay, not March even, to about January to March, we see that as the nutrients are decreasing, the producers are increasing, which should suggest to us that the producers are actually consuming the nutrients. Okay, the nutrients are being consumed. So we notice that when the nutrients reach their minimum, when they are reaching towards their minimum, the producers now start decreasing because the nutrients are few. Okay, probably we are going to have competition and most of them are dying due to insufficient nutrients. Okay, and then when the nutrients start rising again, then we see that the consumers also start rising. Okay, the the producers start rising. But there's a time when we see the nutrients are rising and the producers are decreasing. Remember how we talked about cloud cover, manya not getting enough light. So yes, the nutrients are many, that is around September to December, but there's not enough light for the producers to use the nutrients to make food. So the nutrients will increase while the producers are decreasing. I hope we can see that. Okay, so the consumer, rather the producers, use the nutrients to make their own food. But for them to do that, there must be sufficient light for them to carry out photosynthesis. Now, if the light is reducing, it means that those producers cannot actually make food. And so the nutrients will remain unutilized. I hope that is clear to us? I will be posting the answers in a short while, but before I post them, I just want to take some questions. I want to take some questions. Yes, Malomo, Charles?
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us something or ask something? Good afternoon.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've just joined the meeting.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, try to follow along. Are there any other people who may be having questions? Hope we are getting feedback from you, from your background. Okay, so it appears like there are no questions.
Teacher, I have a question here.
Yes.
In this last month, you explained why the producers are reducing and while the nutrients are really increasing. So I'm thinking, could it be reasonable to say probably the producers are like there's decomposition happening and so the nutrients are being released, or do we have to stick to what you say?
No, if it makes sense, okay, you have to repeat it so that I see whether it really makes sense. You're saying repeat your answer.
From September to December, the quantity of the producers is reducing because they are dying and there's decomposition happening, and so the nutrients are being released from that decomposition. So that's why the nutrients are increasing. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, it can also make sense because we see even the consumers are decreasing. Okay. So their decrease could be either they are being consumed or they're actually dying, and which is very likely. Okay. So if they are dying, what happens to their dead bodies? So their dead bodies may decompose and increase the nutrients. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just have to use all the science you know for anything. As long as it makes sense, it's a good answer. Okay. I'm just trying to stimulate your thinking. So there can be many answers as long as they are scientifically correct. Okay, let's look at primary consumers and their producers. Then I will show you the answers that I had. The relationship between primary producers and the primary consumers. How do we explain it? Now, of course, the answers I have given you earlier, they are just an overview. You would have to say from this time to this time, this is happening to this, which causes a change on this like this, okay? So let's have someone attempt C Roman 2. C Roman 2. Michael has not said anything. Let's give him that chance. Michael.
Teacher, I've just entered.
Okay.
I'm just seeing because I've just joined.
All right. Okay.
I've just joined.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay, but we always begin at 2, so next time please try to keep time. Inform your other friends so that they always are able to join at the right time. Okay, so seeing that there are no answers, no one is answering this. Oh, Perpetua. Perpetua, you have the floor. Please unmute and...
Teacher? when I look at the relationship between producers and primary consumers, in January, you can see that the number of producers, the number of actual consumers is higher than the number of producers. I'm sorry, I beg pardon here. In January, we can see that producers are slightly lower than consumers. Then between from January to mid-May, there is a rapid increase in the standing crop biomass of producers. I think I'm going off track. Let me start afresh because
Okay, now maybe what guidance I can give you, these are 5 marks, and don't over break down that thing. They should be 5 marking areas. So you're going to try to look for where you can get 5 distinct marking areas in terms of the relationship. So do you want to try again?
Yes.
Okay, please do.
From January to mid-May, from January to mid-Feb, there is a gradual increase in primary consumers, simply because the producers are also gradually increasing. So there will be a gradual increase in the availability of food to the primary consumers. Then from mid-Feb to mid-May, there is a rapid increase in the standing crop biomass of consumers, since the standing crop biomass of producers is also rapidly increasing. Then from mid-May to July, there is a rapid decrease in the standing crop biomass of consumers, simply because there is a great decrease in the standing crop biomass of producers. So there will be less food available to the consumers. Then
I think you need, excuse me, I think you need to look at your graph very well, because if you say mid-May, and you tell us that there is a decrease in consumers, I don't think that is correct.
When we see from mid-May to, according to the screen, from mid-May.
You look carefully. Don't look at it from an angle. The reduction in the consumers starts, yeah, it starts at the end of May. Actually, somewhere mid-July, June.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I have.
Yeah, the way you look at your screen will determine what you think is the peak and what isn't the peak.
Okay, teacher, I have got here the points. Yes, at the end
But
of.
maybe also to cut you short a bit, we don't talk about the producer, the consumer, because it's a predator-prey relationship, sort of, or a herbivore plant relationship, okay?
Yeah.
So for you to make things easier on your side, you should start by talking about the producer and then relating its population to that of the consumer. What do I mean? We say that as the population of the producers increases, okay, then that of the primary consumer also increases, meaning that the producer that is population of producer that resulting into an increase in the population of the consumer altogether.
Yes.
Because remember, the producers have to be high in number so that the consumers can easily get food. You get that point?
Yes, teacher.
And from those relationships, we know that always the population of the producers, if you remember the pyramid of numbers, the pyramid of numbers, always the producers are greater than the consumers unless it is a relationship where we have parasitism. Okay, that's why we get an inverted pyramid. Okay,
yes.
But in most times the consumers are going to be fewer than the producers.
Okay.
So that's what I want us to get very well, that say from January to about end of March, okay, the producers' population rises rapidly, which results in an increase, a gradual increase in the, actually is it gradual? It's even also rapid, a rapid increase in the primary consumers' population, okay?
Yes.
Then we see from the end of March to where? Okay, you can tell us that the primary consumers continue rising up to end of May, okay? But then start decreasing because the producers have population is decreasing rapidly and therefore they don't have enough food. Do you get that point?
Yes.
And we see the population continues decreasing up to August for the primary consumers. Okay. So in other words, like some of you have said, it's a direct relationship. When the population of the producers decreases, then the population of the consumers starts also decreasing. When the population of the consumers, of the producers starts rising, then that of the consumers shortly afterwards also starts increasing. Okay? Yeah, so it is how you arrange your answer that will cause you to get more marks. So let me put up the answers for people to take some screenshots for part B and part C. Then we shall go to other parts of the question. So part B, this is the answer. I'm going to give 2 minutes so that people can take screenshots, and then we shall go to the next. I'm hoping that we are all done with that screenshot. Then this is the other one, part B, Roman 2. You can take some screenshots. Okay, screenshots don't take so long. I'm going to go to the next. What is this one telling me? Screenshots. Okay, I'll put the screenshot for part A at the end of the discussion. Since you joined late, you'll have to wait. Okay. So I'm going to go to the next. So this is what we have just been discussing. Okay, I think that was adequate time for our screenshots. The question has other parts to be answered. So we are asked to suggest the probable source of nutrients in the lake and also reasons for the rapid rise in the nutrients up to the end of the year. Then also to discuss factors responsible for rapid increase in producers up to the end of March. Predict what would happen to the ecosystem if the prevailing conditions continue for yet another year. Then we can explain our answer. And lastly, why the primary consumers begin to increase 1 month later before the increase in the number of producers. Should be later after. Okay. So let's start with part D. And now, who can tell us part D? Yes, Ivan.
It's like decomposition of dead organisms in the lake.
So one of them could be decomposition.
Nutrients falling in with the rainwater, for example, nitrates.
Sorry?
It's here. Nutrients falling in with the water. Rainwater. Like
can you tell us a little more about that?
Like for instance, yeah, most of it works like for reaching, yeah, when heavy rains come, yeah, can be buried down, yeah, whereby they are recycled through streams, yeah, towards the lake, like they are washed off onto the ground, to the lake.
So you're saying soil erosion,
yeah,
which would bring nutrients like nitrates.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We have other people. So someone says fertilizers. Okay. I saw a hand somewhere. It has disappeared. Otala. Otala also tell us something.
Sewage disposal.
Speak up. Sewage disposal. Oh, okay, maybe some sewage is being disposed of there. Angela. Angela, your hand was up. Okay, Angela shied away. Okay, so all those answers are correct. Know that these lakes are sometimes fed by rivers, and these rivers carry nutrients from other places. For example, if you were to look at Lake Victoria is fed by Kagera River, and the interesting thing is Kagera River comes from different parts of the from Rwanda there, some parts of Uganda, and when you look at the color of that river, the water is usually brown, okay, because it's carrying a lot of soil, and this soil contains nutrients. So these nutrients are deposited in the lake. So that can also be a source. So thank you for your contributions. Let's do with another part of the question. What are the reasons for the rapid rise in nutrients up to the end of the year? I think we had hinted about that in our earlier discussion. I want to see those who were attentive. Those who are attentive should tell us, especially those who have not said anything. So if I pick your name, then you should readily answer our question because you have been with us. Someone, or you can put in the chat, someone calling themselves IQ. IQ, please tell us the answer to D Roman 2. Is IQ still there? We have someone called the Mystica. Mystica. Seems some of these people are not attentive. Yes, Otala?
I think data and decomposition of organisms.
Okay. It is decomposition, okay?
Yes. Also, producers.
Your connection is not very good, so we can't hear what you're telling us clearly.
TV kozesa remote ya TV.
Ivan. Okay, so we have the decomposition of those producers and their consumers will lead to an increase in the nutrients. Okay, but is that the only thing? Yes, Williams?
You can say, remember we also have death of producers, which add nutrients after decomposition. Like in the lake. Then remember the decrease in producers, which have the decrease in producers which could have consumed the nutrients. And the other point is like death of primary producers also add nutrients after their decomposition. And according to the graph, and a low temperature reduces also expression, resulting in a decrease in nutrient decomposition and consumption. Also, even low light intensities, they lower the rate of photosynthetic rate. Why clear?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Williams. So I hope the rest of us have heard. So some of these points we have talked about them. The nutrients are consumed by the producers. But if the producers have decreased, it means that the rate of consumption will reduce, so the nutrients will accumulate. Okay? And of course, we have said the producers by themselves die and contribute to the nutrients, just as the consumers die and contribute to the nutrients. Yes, Perpetua?
Yes, thank you, teacher. We can also, at the end of the year, from August, is it? Yes, from August to December, we see there is heavy rainfall. It is a rainy season, so there is a rainy season. There is soil erosion, which will wash into the lake, hence increasing the nutrients in the lake.
You're saying the heavy rainfalls do what?
They cause soil erosion, which leach those nutrients to the lake.
That's not so clear.
Like
Michael? Michael?
Yes, sir.
Yes, tell us.
So if you are to see from our graph, toward the end of the year, the level of nutrients is rapidly increasing. And meanwhile, for the number of producers and the consumers are also decreasing. So therefore, the level of nutrients is high because the number of producers and the consumers are low. Therefore, they cannot fit in the nutrients. Okay, the level of feeding in the nutrients is just slow. So they are feeding slowly. Therefore, this leads to the rise of the the level of nutrient in the lakes, the way I'm seeing that.
Okay, thank you for your contribution. Let's move on. What factors are responsible for rapid increase in producers up to end of March? Yes, Otala?
High concentration of nutrients, which give the producers food so they feed and reproduce fast. That's the decrease in their population.
Otala, we can't hear you well.
Teacher, I'm like high concentration of nutrients. Are you getting?
Okay, that's correct. What else? Can we have let's have Michael.
Let me try, sir.
Yes, we are waiting. Michael. Okay, let's have Hope.
Okay, teacher, I think why there is a rapid increase in the producers up to the end of March is because we see that the temperature is rising and also the light intensity is rising.
So, if they are rising, then how does that cause an increase in the producers? How do the two cause an increase in the producers? Hope, you want to finish your answer? Okay, Perpetua.
Yes, thank you, teacher. At the end of March, there is rapid increase in the number of producers. Reason being the presence of light intensity and no presence of light.
There is an increase in light intensity. Okay,
Yes,
what's the presence of light?
Yeah, there is an increase in light intensity, which is used in the photosynthesis to manufacture food. Presence of temperature, which increases.
That's the increase in temperature. Temperature is always present.
Increase in temperature, which increases dissolution of oxygen in the lake, hence favoring the biochemical process respiration. The high number of nutrients in the lake also favor the producers.
Maybe
increase in the producers.
The answer is correct, but we need to just fine tune it. We say increase in light intensity, which results in an increase in the rate of photosynthesis, which results in increase in the number of producers. Are we together?
Yes.
Then you say increase in temperature. Don't say presence of temperature. Increase in temperature, which will increase the rate of photosynthesis. Okay.
Yes.
Which also increases the number of producers. But also the increase in temperature can do what? Increase the rate of decomposition, which will avail maybe nutrients. Okay? Get it? Something like that. All right. Williams.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
We also see levels of primary consumers.
Okay, so the primary consumers are at a lower, their population is lower or lower quantity. That means they will be less predation.
Yeah.
That is also a correct observation. Yes, Hope, what are you telling us?
Teacher, can we also talk about the fact that initially the nutrients, the concentration of the nutrients is very high, so the fact that they are reducing means that the producers are consuming them, i.e. increasing the number of producers because the nutrients are many.
That was the first point I think we talked about. You're just saying it in a different way. Okay. So you're just saying it in a different way. Abundance of nutrients will always, of course, cause an increase in the producers. So please predict what would happen to the ecosystem if the prevailing conditions continued for yet another year, and explain your answer. We shall stop on G. I had prepared a lot more. Excuse me. I'd prepared a lot more, but the time hasn't allowed us. Maybe we shall look at the other question another time. I hope you did the other work I gave you and you discuss it among yourselves in your groups. So what would happen to the ecosystem if the prevailing conditions continue for yet another year? Do you think we are going to have something different from what we are seeing? If so, you tell us why. If there is something, nothing will change, you also tell us why nothing will change. Okay? That is the approach to the question. If there's something that will change, what will change of among all these factors we are discussing? Okay, let's have Loanita has been quiet. She's run away. Michael?
Yes, sir. The way I'm seeing what will happen to the ecosystem, because I think it will increase, more especially the number of producers will increase. And then also the number of consumers also will start to increase due to the fact that if we are seeing at the end of the year, even the level of nutrients is now increasing, which means this provides the growth factors for the producers. Even we see light also will also be maximum and the temperature also will be also maximum. This favors the growth of the producers, and therefore the final consumers now, the primary consumers will feed on the producers, and they also increase on their numbers.
So you mean the whole of next year? Are you telling us the whole of next year the producers will increase and remain high up there, then the consumers also increase and remain up there? The light intensity will increase and remain up there. Is that what you're telling us?
No, they will increase when all the nutrients has been exhausted. Therefore, they will also start decreasing. But started from the new year now, from January, it will going to increase. The number of producers will increase due to the fact that the nutrients content is high. Therefore, they feed on the nutrients, and also light is more optimum, and other growth factors they are available.
Yeah, but there's something you are not understanding from my question. When they increase, the nutrients are high. Do they remain high?
No.
Do the nutrients remain high? The nutrients will eventually decrease, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if they decrease, what happens to the producers? And then what happens to the consumers? So why am I asking these questions? This another year will produce the same conditions, okay? You get me? Because these are seasons. As a season was last year, that's what we expect it to be this year and the year after this year. You get me? So the fluctuation of the temperature and light we expect to be the same. The fluctuation of the nutrients, producers and consumers is expected to remain the same. Okay, and since they are the same, we don't really expect any significant change from what happened in the current year. Is that understood?
Pardon.
Okay, let me repeat myself for the last time. I am saying, if you look at this graph, because it's something that happens for an entire year, just like we have a 24-hour cycle. We know that in the 24-hour cycle, at around 6:30 or 6:45 in the morning, we shall see the sun rise, and then it's going to remain up in the sky up to around 7 or 7:15 in the evening. Okay, now that is in January, but maybe later on in the year the sun starts rising much later or much earlier. So it's something that is predictable. So similarly here we see that temperature and the light intensity is going to fluctuate the same way, because we know in a year we have a dry season and a wet season. And because of that, the nutrients are also going to fluctuate the same way. And when nutrients fluctuate the same way, then the producers will fluctuate the same way. And then the consumers will also fluctuate the same way. Okay? So don't expect anything new. Am I understood this time?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Don't worry, in a short while I'll put the answers, then you take screenshots. Then lastly, why did the primary consumers begin to increase 1 month? Okay. 1 month later before the increase in the number of producers. Okay, I'm waiting. We're looking at the last question. Okay, let me just share the answers. So these ones we had, you can take screenshots, then we can call it a day. Just a minute each of the answers. Okay, our time is, I think, fast spent. I'm being asked to leave the room. I will share with you next time, okay? Yeah.
Teacher, share them.
No, we are short of time. There's some other activity going to take place.